The fog of war creates its own realities, which may or may not be entirely true. This is what is happening in Israel-Palestine flare-up. Psychological wars are also being fought along the bombardments, which has divided the world into two camps once again. India has been resolute in supporting its all-weather friend Israel, which has stood by India in its tough battles and wars against terrorism. But there seems to be some doubts about India's stand on the Israel-Palestine issue. Has India really changed its historical stand on this issue? Today, we'll break up this topic in our show. Welcome to The Matrix. As a civilization, India has always been a guardian of human rights. Perhaps the only country in the world where religious books have mantras for world peace. In 1947, India had voted against Israel in the UN for establishing its state, neglecting the genuine concerns of Palestinians. India has always been an advocate of a two-state theory for the resolution of the issue. Over the period of 5 decades, with the changing geopolitical requirements, Rajeev Gandhi, Narsimha and Atal Bihari Vajpayee have made certain adjustments in diplomacy. But India's position on this issue has not changed even today. Today, to discuss this topic, I have with me one of the most renowned thinkers of our time, Dr. Khawaja Iftekhar Ahmed. Welcome. And we also have a very well-known scholar, Dr. Zakir Hussain. Khawaja Sahab, I'll start with you. And I would like to ask you that Prime Minister had issued a statement when Hamas attacked a music concert in Israel. And it was an unambiguous statement supporting the all-weather friend at that point of time. But in certain quarters, there seems to be some doubts. The statement was interpreted as if India's stand on Israel-Palestine issue has changed. What are your views on this?
With the installation of this government in 2014, certain changes were made in our policy, in our foreign policy priorities. One of the area of changes in priorities is Middle East. And when we talk about Middle East, naturally, the reference straight away goes to Israel-Palestinian conflict. The change that has happened at our end is that earlier it was a compact policy. Israel, Palestinians, Arabs together. Now, India has an independent policy towards Israel and an independent policy for Arabs, for Palestinians, and so on. This is the major change. The attack is not making any distinction between people of one denomination or another denomination as far as the religion is concerned. Israel is a state which has it's a 50-50 kind of a situation. There are Arabs, there are Jews, there are Christians, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So the innocent victims doesn't mean that they are going to be exclusively Jews. So the appeal doesn't go for the Jews. Appeal is for everybody who is going to be the victim of this particular attack. Now this attack extends to as a counter attack, because unfortunately what is happening there is killings and counter killings from both sides.
Yes.
And essentially the whole issue is converted into a human issue.
Mm-hmm.
It is the humanity which is suffering.
Now, Dr. Zakir Hussain, I would like to ask you that this flare-up, or rather now it's a war, full-blown war, has begun at a time when we were becoming witnesses to history in the making, when both Arab world and Israel, realizing that extremism doesn't take you anywhere, they were on the verge of making a revolutionary change in their relations. Now, with the new situation, what impact do you see on the unfolding events?
It is quite clear that Palestine issue was dying, and Hamas and others with other group, we were trying to take their share of land through violence and through militancy, they thought that they are going to lose everything, because the relation between, after Abraham Accord, several Arab countries joined, normalized their relation with Israel.
Right.
And now Saudi Arabia was in the line, and it is said that if relation between Saudi Arabia and Israel is normalized, the entire Muslim world will be forced to normalize their passion and vision towards Israel. So at this time, Hamas said that if this happens, they will get nothing. So they strike at the right point according to their vision to again enliven the Palestinian issue, and they have been successful in that for temporary reason, for temporary movement to rising the passion of Arabs and other Muslims and non-Muslims who are pro-Palestinians. But what I think that whether this will sustain longer, this passion, because the ground reality is changing in such a manner that economic importance and geostrategic interests are changing in a very dynamic way. And overall, if we say that the pace and the scale through which Hamas attacked was beyond their capacity. Beyond their capacity.
So do you question the timing of this attack?
Timing and I'm coming to that. Beyond their capacity. It means that certain agencies involved in training them. It means that the region is becoming an international theater of war. It's an international conspiracy. We should see this event as an international conspiracy to destabilize the region. And they have been successful for 4 or 5 reasons and 5 years.
Right.
And what I think that the announcement, the proposed India, Middle East, European economic corridor was immediate, as well as the statement of MBS that our relation with Israel is improving every day.
Yes.
This has frustrated the people who were interested to take this. But again, I say that Palestine is a real issue, and people should where the people will go. 2.5 million people who are living in Gaza, what will be their fate?
Right.
So here, I think that India should take a stand.
So, and it's been an issue which has prolonged for too long, and the world has unable to come up with a solution. But like you pointed out, some people are also pointing fingers at Iran, that perhaps they have trained, these Hamas.
Iran is always there. Iran is always there. There are conspiracy theories are there. Iran has created 2 factions. Number one is Hezbollah, a Shia militia, and that Hamas, Sunni militia. But if we go to the root of Hamas, it was Israel which nurtured against communist. Then again is used against as PLO. Then again, when PLO dead, then again Hamas gained its independence.
Right.
When you play with fire, you will get fire.
Sure.
So again, I think that the role of international community is not satisfactory. It was sleeping. Now this situation has come to surface, where do or die like situation has occurred. The way Netanyahu has is committed to
Full-blown war.
Full-round war. It shows that many tragedies are going to unfold in the coming year. He said that he will change the map of the Middle East.
Right.
That in 50 years, no one will be able to do such kind of things.
Right. Khawaja Sahab, I'd like to ask you that when we see these visuals of human sufferings, children, women, in this conflict from both sides, it shakes our conscience, and in spite of these experiences, like Dr. Zakir Sahab was also saying, that the world leaders, they don't come together to call for a ceasefire and bring an end to these hostilities. Has the world become indifferent to human sufferings? Will it be a fair, sort of statement? We don't see any world leaders, appealing for ceasefire, which is the need of the hour, where almost more than 2,000 people have died on both the sides.
I think if you look at the world of today, so many wars in so many directions and in so many regions. Look at the Ukraine and Russia. Afghanistan has not finally settled down.
Yes.
Iran with its militias, as Dr. Saab mentioned, with Hezbollah and Hamas. One is the Sunnis, the other is the Shia. Iran is not directly fighting the war with Israel and with other stakeholders.
Right.
They are fighting a war against Israel and other stakeholders through dummies. And these are two dummies.
Right.
All
Proxies,
right.
yeah.
And with them, they are trying to achieve their goals. That's one part of it.
Right.
Before coming to your question, the second part of it is that there is a tug of war which is constantly going on for thousands of years between Arabs and Persia. There are traditional and conservative rivalries which are very much there between Iran and the Arab nations.
Right.
Now, this has shrinked from the Arabs basically to Saudi Arabia versus Iran.
Right.
Now, at a time, which he was also mentioning, and I was also going to mention, that at a time when America, Israel, and Saudi Arabia and Palestinians, they were quite close to a peace agreement.
Right.
We don't have the details of that.
Sure.
But we only come to know through the media
Yeah, we've seen
that they were
MBS.
too close.
Yes, yes.
They were too close. So when the peace was going to be restored, and the Arab nations, some of the nations, some leading nations in fact, have recognized Israel. And Saudi Arabia is on the verge of recognizing Israel because the kind of context
Right.
that you see, the kind of engagement that you see between Israel and the Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Even the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia has visited Israel and so
Right.
on.
Right.
So looking at that, a completely different peaceful scenario was emerging and evolving.
Right.
This was not to the favor of Iran in particular. So the tug of war, to which I mentioned, the tug of war between Iran and Iran and Saudi Arabia, that is also a dimension to this whole conflict, and we understand this.
Right.
All right. Now, coming to the human part of it, and why the world is not responding to this. United Nations, unfortunately so,
Yeah.
until now has failed to resolve any major political conflict between different nations
Right.
and in different regions. Ukraine is one. Arab-Israel, 1967. Look at the resolutions. The resolutions call for evacuation of occupied territories.
Right.
1967 war is the baseline.
Yes.
How many years? 33 and 23. 56 years have passed. Where is the world? And where are the world bodies? And where is the United Nations? And where are the big powers?
Exactly.
So there are powers, there are statements for public consumption, and there are international bodies and organizing debates, seminars, workshops, discussions, engagements, and so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter on ground is that nothing substantial or tangible is coming on ground. And the latest casualty for humanity is this Hamas attack and its counter-attack by Israel.
Right.
I am sorry to say that in this whole conflict, who is suffering? It is the human loss and it is the humanity loss.
Right.
And the kind of collateral damage
Yes.
which in this attack and the counter-attack
Right.
is happening.
Yes.
And so many casualties.
Right.
1,000 here or 1,000 there. It's not a question of counting figures.
Right.
It's a question of human deaths
Human lives.
and human lives and human rights
Yes.
and human dignity.
Right.
So where is the conscience of the world? So your question is absolutely well placed, that the conscience of the world is yet to take the call and stand up for peace in this particular region.
Right.
And that is not coming through. There are statements here and there, but the kind of substantial, solid position which is required, because if you look at the America, for example,
Yes.
the America has given a statement. It is a one-sided statement in support of Israel. Well, I'm not against that. You have a certain position, you have a certain strategic engagement. Perfect. All right, you go ahead with that.
Yes.
But being a superpower, being a champion of human rights,
Right.
as you claim yourself to be. So where is that balance in your foreign policy? That's my question.
Yes.
So that balance is missing, Atir.
Yes.
And that was your question, that why the world is not coming forward. No, neither America is coming forward, not even other nations are coming forward. Nobody is coming forward. So to conclude to your answer is that it is the moment of India. It is the moment for our leadership.
Right.
If nobody is taking the lead, we are the one, and deservingly so. We should take the lead. Prime Minister Modi should stand up and should take a lead, and should take a lead in a manner that he takes charge of the whole issue, bring all the concerned parties on table, because eventually you look at any history of war, we have to come to the table. Absolutely. So sooner the better.
Sure, absolutely. He's now recognized as a world statesman. So, and given the background and history of Indian civilization, morally India has the right to intervene. But Dr. Zakir Hussain, I would like to ask you that India as a nation is on a fast track growth in a multipolar world. It has interest in both West Asia, like as you're pointing out, the corridor initiatives which have been, and also the Western world. Very interestingly, India's outreach in the West Asia has been like unprecedented, as Khawaja Sahab was saying, since 2014. So much so that even the Pakistan has been relegated to the background as far as that region is concerned. Our outreach has been amazing, and we have won the hearts of Arabs. But do you think that our policy of delinking religion with diplomacy, this is the best suited policy for us?
I don't think that we should call it a religion, delinking religion with diplomacy, but delinking emotion with diplomacy.
Right.
The emotion is high because nobody, neither me nor the world nor the people here, are against Israel. But what matters, what rankles to our mind, is the promises made to Palestinians, their own homeland.
Right.
Nobody is taking them. Everywhere they are going to refugee. Again, 2.5 million Palestinians are going to become a refugee.
Right.
Here, this is the point here. And what I think that India should have included Palestine issue also, because we have our stand on Palestine. We are supporting Israel against terrorism. But at the same time, the 2.5 million Palestinians are not terrorists.
Right.
So we should not take sides. Of course, we should give preference to our partners. But as a leader, as a global leader,
right,
we should have a comprehensive policy in our view, where all the factions should be addressed. Right. Recently in G20 summit, we raised the issue of global South, and there we were highly welcomed.
Yes.
Now here I find that, you know, that Palestine issue is at the heart of Arabs and many people in the world. Right. So if we are ignoring this, it means somewhere we are being bracketed.
You know, perhaps that it's an interpretation. That's the impression we are getting. But there is no statement otherwise which indicates that our stand on this issue has changed. Now, let me. And there's been politics on this issue worldwide. You know, on all the countries. It could be. You see, within Israel also there was politics on these. You name the country. Now I want to come to our own country, where certain political parties. Let me be very specific. The Congress Party, in its CWC statement, has been selective in condemning hostilities in Israel. It has taken a conscious decision of siding with the Palestinian cause and has ignored the hostilities carried out by the Hamas on day one, when this war started all over again. Do you think as a national party, this is the right approach?
Our approach to such issues and conflicts has been and have to be a wholesome and holistic one. We have never been selective on such issues. So anybody, whether it is Congress or it is anybody else, being selective means being discriminatory in our approach.
Yes.
Why? Because in substance, if you look at the whole issue, everybody is the victim of violence.
Absolutely.
So when violence is targeting everybody on both sides, then why to be selective?
Yes.
Coming to our policy, if you look at our domestic politics and you look at the entire opposition, on national issues, a consensus is necessary. Going in two different directions is not serving the national interest and the diplomatic interest also. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that anything, howsoever good that may be, on the domestic front or on the international front or the Muslim world front, but very specifically, or on the Arab front, no, it is always Prime Minister is targeted by the opposition.
Yes.
Now, you target. Well, it's a democracy. You have a right to target. You have a right to criticize. But targeting for the sake of targeting, criticizing for the sake of criticizing is no policy.
Exactly.
In such a situation, has the government or the Foreign Office or the spokesman or any or MOS or the Minister of Foreign External Affairs, anybody has said anything against our firm stand and policy on Palestine? Have we withdrawn? No, we haven't withdrawn.
Absolutely.
I said in the beginning that we have a separate policy for Israel, for Palestine, and for this is about Hamas attack. This is not Palestinian being discussed. He also mentioned that Palestinian issue is not under discussion as today. The discussion is on the attack by Hamas and repercussions of that on Israel, on the Middle East, and on the 2.5 million people who are the inhabitants of Gaza Strip. So our stand, whatever little I understand of diplomacy and of politics, our stand hasn't changed, and there should not be any doubt, and there's no need for any fresh debate to start on, have we shifted from Palestinian? No, we haven't shifted from that. I believe so.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's one. The second point is that at a time when consensus is required, when one stand is required, when the leadership of India is required, because why? Because Arabs trust us. And there's no reason to question that trust. Israel trusts us, and there's no need to question that trust. So when both the parties who are fighting with each other, now they have absolute trust in our leadership. So from the domestic fronts, strength should go to the leadership rather than questions are being raised on the leadership. That's my take on this.
Wonder what they'll do if they were in power. Now, I would like to ask you, Dr. Zakir Hussain, and this question I want both of you to answer. At a time when both Israel and Palestine are trying to amplify their hostilities, they are clearly unable to think clearly. You know, when in enmity, in war, people can't think clearly. You know, it's the given. The world is getting polarized. Indians need to be careful in forming their opinions and not overreacting. What would be your advice to Indians as far as this issue is concerned?
I think that as a responsible citizen of this country and responsible community of the world, they should have a balanced view. They should not overreact, neither they undermine. So here the issue is terrorism. Of course, Hamas did wrong. It should be condemned. But side by side, the issue of Palestinians should be taken up. The entire Palestinian living in Gaza, 2.5 million are not terrorists. We know it. This is the emotive issue for Indians. So whatever national policy suits to us, national interest suits to us, we should back it. We should back the Prime Minister. We should back other forces which are pursuing it. At the same time, as a civilization, we should also take humanity into our consideration. So there must be some solution of Palestinians, not Hamas. Hamas is fighting, it should be treated like that. If innocent people are dying here and there, it should be taken up. My only issue in this debate is that who will take care of the interests of Palestinians, innocent civilians. World is watching, it is polarized because the world is in transition. The world thinks that US is going down while other forces are coming up. Who is going to talk and burn their fingers? So at this time, the world of India can take a good lead as it has already taken in several matters. So I feel that our next Prime Minister's next issue will be to address that this issue should be solved amicably and there should be ceasefire.
Right.
And some humanitarian assistance should be provided from India also.
Right. Khawaja Sahab, I'd like to ask you that now on this topic, we see that, it is also being, sort of transferred like all other countries to India also. We're seeing so many social media postings. We are bombarded with all sorts of emotional, provocations, which is connected to this hostility. What would be your advice to Indians, when it comes to forming an opinion or reacting to all these social media posts or reports which are coming in?
I think social media and outbursts on that
Right.
is not the determining factor
Right.
of foreign policy issues and foreign policy priorities.
Right.
We have a very strong, well-trained foreign policy experts,
Right.
team of foreign policy experts. And we have to trust their genius.
Right.
And that genius is a proven genius.
Right.
With the kind of leadership that we have at the helm of affairs in the form of Prime Minister Modi.
Absolutely.
Right? And the acceptance of his leadership worldwide. There is none in the world, if you look at the rankings, there is none who is near him in terms of grading and ranking. So when this acceptance is at such a massive scale, it has to be converted and translated into a ground reality
Right.
through the initiative to which he is referring again and again, and I am also referring to that.
Right.
The second part is that it is high time for the government of India and for our leadership,
Right.
since there are many misgivings about Palestinian and all that.
Right.
Well, there are many people who have no doubts on the Palestinian stand as far as the government of India's stand is concerned.
Right.
But still, I think to remove any scope, or to rather eliminate any scope for any kind of misgivings and misunderstandings on our stand with regard to the Palestinian issue, the Prime Minister or our Foreign Office or our Foreign Minister should come out with a compact and comprehensive statement which speaks about our overall Middle East policy that includes Palestinian issue. Because at the heart of this whole thing is the Palestinians and the struggle of Palestinians for the last 75 years. Israel got the state in 1948,
Right.
having almost 55% of the land of Palestinians at that point of time.
Right.
The Arabs couldn't establish the state, and the Palestinians are refugees, whether they are in Jordan or they are in Egypt or they are in any other country of the world. So it is high time that the Palestinian issue should come to the center stage of world diplomacy. Ceasefire is as early as possible, the ceasefire should happen there.
Right.
And the Palestinian issue should be taken up. And I would urge the President of America, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, the leadership of President Netanyahu, and the PLO leadership of Mahmoud Abbas, that the momentum that was building up for the final solution of this particular conflict, these forces inimical to peace in the region, they should not succeed, and that agreement should come about as early as possible. And the first step in that direction would be ceasefire. As far as the Indians are concerned, we should stand by the leadership. And on foreign policy issues, whenever people ask me, what is your take? I always answer them, on foreign policy, it's never my take and your take, it is the state's take. So whatever the state's take is, we all stand by that take and will continue to be doing so. That's the stand.
The resolution is much needed, though it appears it may get delayed for some time now. But now I would like to thank both of you, my very highly valued guests, for being
Thank
here
you.
and sharing your thoughts on this very important issue. As the children of India, a civilization which has cradled human rights values, Indians need to be sensitive towards human rights violations on either side. But they must refrain themselves from sensationalism and impulsive reactions to the conflict. I would conclude with C. Raja Mohan, a scholar on international affairs views he expressed in his article published recently. The Indian political class must shed its self-referential discourse without respect for structural trends in the Middle East and build a new national consensus on engaging in the region. That's all we have this week. See you soon with another interesting topic. Till then, goodbye from the Matrix team.